The question most often asked by people who are religious is, well, what are you going to put in its place? What is going to be the foundation of our morality? How are people going to deal with the difficulties and tragedies of life? As if religion was the only resource for answers. And indeed, the assumption is sometimes made that it's the best resource for answers. But the fact is, of course, that there is a much richer, much deeper, indeed even more ancient than certainly the young religions of the world, like Christianity and Islam, a much more long-standing way of thinking about these things, which is vastly more encouraging, vastly more of a support to anybody who will accept the invitation to think along humanist lines. And the first thing to say about humanism is that it isn't a doctrine. It isn't a teaching. It isn't a list of do's and don'ts. Instead, it's an attitude. And the basic attitude of the humanist outlook is that in thinking about how we're to live lives that are flourishing, which are good to live, which have at their heart very good relationships with our fellows in the human story, when we do this, when we begin that process of reflection, we have to do two things. We have to acquire a measure of self-understanding. You remember what's written over the entrance to the Delphic Oracle, know yourself. And that's an important injunction. It seems rather a cliche to us now. We live in the post-Freudian age of knowing ourselves as well as we possibly can. But the idea that lies behind it is that when one has a sense of one's own talents and capacities for living a life that really does feel good to live, then one can make good and informed choices about the kinds of values that we could live by and the sorts of goals that it would be worth us pursuing. And the all-important assumption that lies behind that in its turn is that there are as many kinds of good and worthwhile lives as there are people to live them. A view about the matter utterly different from a view that says there is a one-size-fits-all answer to how everybody should live, what the right answer is. And that, of course, is what all the great ideologies, and chief among them the religious ideologies, have always claimed.